Story 1. The phrase, "What is subscriber fraud" on Reddit is often criticized, although they are great at coding and experts at manipulating the Reddit algorithm. Story 2. Cheetos is having a rough day at school. Cheetos was forced to eat Cheetos at his birthday. Cheetos also won the first prize at the annual Cheetos eating contest. My boy Cheetos. Story 3. Little how to fix shower water pressure is struggling in mathematics but excelling in plumbing class. Story 4. Addiction with the highest rate of suicide is experienced by individuals having a hard time at school and in life in general. I think they might be addicted to something. Story 5. Lil Social Blade has brain rot and a crippling screen addiction, but we are hoping it translates to TikTok money someday. Story 6. Oh, I was fortunate here. I just searched for Alana Smith, the Women's National Basketball Association player. They are doing great in school if they are anything like the real Alana. Story 7. Well, I searched for "when was sliced bread invented" to fact-check something. Sorry, when was sliced bread invented? I set you up for failure. Story 8. Keenan of Cable News Network. The child is doing well. He has some anxiety and depression and is somewhat of a tattletale. Story 9. Lilo and Stitch showtimes. She is great at hula dancing but got in trouble for bringing her dog to school. Story 10. Why does my cat need the air when she looks at me? Is she doing all right in school? She is bullied a lot because of her name. Story 11. I searched for Charlie Kirk because I had no idea who he was or why college students admire him so much. Fortunately, my anatomy recoiled from sheer disgust like a turtle hit by a bus. Story 12. Well, I think it is a terrible thing to name a child, and I would be very embarrassed to call it out. Emond and Lucery's fan art. Story 13. Portuguese man of war is 4 raccoons in a trench coat who generally go with the flow but should not be messed with. Story 14. How many floors does Grimald Place have? It is a very long and unusual name. I would not want to send a child to a public school with that name. I would choose to homeschool them instead. Story 15. Oh man, little bathing with urinary tract infection is going to have a hard time. We will have to teach him the phrase unscented soap only at such a young age. Story 16. Game Boy Original Super RC Pro AM. Not sure if that qualifies as a tragedy, but guaranteed kid is going the distance because he or she yearns for the cup. Story 17. Naughty Dog has been making poor decisions. Playing too much Crash Bandicoot at home is not helping with his education either. Story 18. I searched for a restaurant near me called Tupelo Honey, which serves Southern-style food. I guess she is an exotic dancer, not a stripper. Story 19. I would like you to meet my son, learning remote. He has an amazing ability to be programmed by every blinking light he sees. Story 20. Lake Placid movie is overlooked by most but is an absolute gem and works wonders in their animal sciences class. Story 21. Wendy is doing all right in school, although no one ever spells her name correctly. The other children always ask if they can get a cheeseburger and fries. Story 22. Yes, this is my child Yak Milkbones, but you can just call him Yak for short. I can actually see people naming their kid Yak. They will be fine if they are a large linebacker type. Story 23. My darling little, can you make regular rice in the microwave, is doing their best. It is not ideal, but it kind of gets the job done. Story 24. I searched the name of the school he is transferring to next year. I do not think that will go well. Story 25. What is a Yuma shipper? They have been sent to in-school suspension 8 times this year for biting or attempting to assert wolf-like dominance over other children, claiming the area around the slide as their packland. They are currently failing every class due to only communicating with the school staff in barks. Story 26. Succulent is shriveling is surprisingly well adjusted. Somehow, they had enough charisma to convince other people to call them Lent. However, like their namesake, their grades are shriveling. They have a little bit of a hard time absorbing what they are taught, so the grades are barely C's. Story 27. Wright said Fred is not doing well. He got suspended for not following the dress code because he would not wear a shirt. He said it hurts. He does seem to know a little geography, so we have that going for us. Story 28. Sugar Bee Apple fits in well in her small southern town, where almost everyone is called Sugar or Hun. Story 29. I had a question about my embroidery machine, Futura Quartet. It is not going well for her at school. Story 30. How to reprogram open and close limits on model name garage door opener. This guide will help you program your garage door effectively. Story 31. Literally just read it on my phone. Probably not too bad. Could probably use Red or DD as a nickname. Story 32. Madison Bumgarner statistics, so a mostly normal name with a unique middle name and last name. If they are like their namesake, they will have a great life. Story 33. Poor Clover Mite. She hates school. Anytime the teacher asks if anyone knows the answer to a question, someone yells, Clover Mite. Story 34. Does Queensland have life sentences? For context, there was a brutal murder of a teenage girl last week. The couple responsible have been charged with murder and interference with a corpse, which I hope does not mean what I think it means. Story 35. Nantahala Lake fish species are being unfairly criticized for their name and now require support. Story 36. Nero is doing quite well. He is very intelligent and popular and has even made the varsity team. We are very proud. Story 37. The Netflix movie about the end of the world that has a ship in the beginning is filled with anxiety but is quite good at questioning authority. Story 38. So, it is not the most recent, but I wish it were. During the 3rd century in Rome, there was a succession crisis, and they went through many emperors in a short period of time. One of them was named Pupienus, and when you become emperor, you receive the suffix Maximus added to your name. So, Pupienus Maximus. My daughter is now Pupienus Maximus. For a 2-year-old, it is somewhat fitting. Story 39. Well, I was looking up Milo Murphy's Law to see if I remembered it well enough to explain it to my first graders and show it to them on the last few days of school. I guess my future son is not too upset with the name Milo. Story 40. Do people see tasks assigned to others in Microsoft Planner? There is some sort of confusion where no one knows who is doing what or what they are even doing. Story 41. Sid is not the worst name, I guess. I was trying to determine what that means in a pharmaceutical context. Story 42. Oh dear. Searching for information from podcasts, so this might not go well. Little Nitrogen Mustard is not doing well socially. The other children avoid him. He is very good in science but not so great in politics or history. He was banned from the local pool after an incident, but no one is allowed to talk about that. His last therapist said his personality is so toxic it could cure cancer. So, poor kid, but also poor everyone else. Story 43. Sins of the Father, Guild Wars 2 story. Good thing I am homosexual. No child's life is ruined because of me. Story 44. The code that is on my boarding pass. No idea, but they have no exes, so it is nice to know their dating life is good. Story 45. The 916 area code is not doing so great. It is having a bit of an identity crisis because everyone thinks it is from Sacramento, but it is definitely not. Story 46. Battle Arena. As you can imagine, I receive a lot of notes from the teacher. Apparently, he is quite combative with the other students. Story 47. Spelt Bread is not doing well in school because their personality is as bland as the loaf I made. Story 48. Dean Frankenstein Kuntz is doing just fine. His friends are a little nerdy, a little weird, but good kids. They all know it is pronounced Igor and not to play with fire. Story 49. Oh no. I could not remember Henry Kissinger's name, so I searched for politician who bombed Cambodia. This does not bode well for little Polly. Story 50. Their name is today's Wordle, and they have a panic attack if they score less than 105 on a spelling test. Yes, I cheated at Wordle this morning. Story 51. Unfortunately, how to do ombre nails with gel polish and a sponge is not doing well at school. She is being bullied a lot because her name is very long. She always has fabulous nails, though. Story 52. My kid's name is Proton. He is not very bright, but because he is named after science, he is bullied constantly. I was looking for the virtual private network. Story 53, Charles Lee Ray. Hopefully, children today do not remember the real name of the murderer who possessed the Chucky doll. Story 54, Captain Beefheart. He is currently expelled from school for playing discordant tambourine in the rhythm band. Story 55, American Goldfinch Call. Honestly, not that bad. They are probably very knowledgeable but get distracted easily looking out the window. Story 56, How to import fonts into Google Slides. He is doing terribly but is still passing with C grades because he makes the PowerPoint presentations well. Story 57, My children are now named Reddit 1 and Reddit 2. Based on most of the posts, they are performing poorly in school because of progressive cultural influences. Story 58. The 6-quart stainless steel stock pot has a lot of strength and is the most popular item in the kitchen. It excels at any large task you assign and receives many compliments on its shine. Story 59. Lego Elves. Secrets of Elvendale. I am going to have a nickname and will find it hard with a fantasy name like that. Story 60. The last thing I searched for was a celebrity's name to make sure I spelled it correctly for a meme I am making. I am sure Henry Cavill is having a fine day at school. Story 61. Sweet little what did I last Google is a sassy child with a mouth on them, but generally a chill enough kid, I would say. Story 62. Mr. or Miss, how to get your beagle to stop going crazy, will have an amazing career as a veterinarian or dog trainer. Story 63. Storm Prediction Center. There are some concerning trends over the next few days. Expect significant storm outbreaks. Story 64. Well, I was helping her with her French Revolution homework. She got an A. Now she is called Georges-Jacques Danton. Story 65. Price guide for 1950s accordion is getting straight A's in his university civil engineering courses. He does not much like his name though. He wants me to call him something else. Story 66. Vanilla pudding recipe is very popular and combines science and home economics, but the person dislikes the book they are reading in English and is about to get in trouble for using chat generative pre-trained transformer. Story 67. Art the clown is an absolute charmer in school apparently, but everyone seems to keep their distance anyway. Story 68. Little USS Kyushu New Orleans class is being teased relentlessly by the other kids for having a nerd parent. They are really good at using highlighters but do not get along with the Swedish kids. Story 69. Hazbin Hotel Season 2 is the class clown and is failing all of her subjects. She is being sent to the principal's office for buying alcohol in an alley and selling it on the playground, as well as pretending to spike drinks by dropping candy in classmates' beverages when their backs are turned. She is also often in trouble for distributing mature content in school. The only classes she is passing are music and art. Story 70. I looked up an address to make a business call, so my child would have a very traditional name that does not stand out much, unlike people who have government names like Rowdy and Riot. It was a near miss with Dragoon Plant, who is either a pathetic outcast or the coolest kid in school. There is no middle ground. Story 71. Indiana Karst Conservancy excels in earth sciences but is the unusual student with few friends and intense interests they cannot stop talking about. They go about their school life mostly ignored and are okay with that. They just want to focus on their work. Story 72. What is open-handed drumming? I guess he will excel in open-handed drumming, but only that because his timing will be as bad as mine. Story 73. How to make player 1 Wiimote a different Wiimote without turning on the previously set Wiimote. I doubt they would be doing well, to be honest. If they ever get friends, they would probably be called Wiimote. Story 74. Little Lion's Head knot is probably acceptable, at least in comparison to his classmates' barely legal teen titties, hot lesbian action, and all the others that you are not confessing to. Story 75. It's persistent depressive disorder. I am referring to persistent depressive disorder, and I can imagine their school life with that name. It gives me goosebumps. Story 76. Metal casting mold plaster of Paris. They might get bullied, but they do have metal in their name, which is a pretty cool thing to be named after. I am making aluminum rubber ducks with my friend who owns a forge. Story 77. Who animated Mr. Ring-a-Ding in Doctor Who? I can almost squidge Lux, the enemy of the episode or story, as Framestore animated it. Their name is Rad, short for Ring-a-Ding, and by middle school they had stopped speaking to me. Story 78. I am suddenly starting to regret my new habit of adding a swear word to my searches to prevent Google from generating an artificial intelligence summary. Story 79. Cat video game character. I guess it all depends on whether anyone asks what cat is short for or asks their middle name. Story 80. Can gopher snakes be kept as pets? Gopher is a terrible name for a child, but not as bad as some of the others on this list. They probably get bullied a lot. Story 81. The person is a prostitute and addicted to prescription drugs. They pass every class by always taking their tests orally. Story 82. What happens if nobody scores in overtime in the National Hockey League? The player struggles academically but is the star hockey player for their team. Story 83. I guess they are named after my mother. I was searching for her race results from when she competed in World's Toughest Mudder. Story 84. Swollen ankle after falling down 2 steps. I got excited to see my husband and flew out the back door but somehow missed the steps. I rolled my ankle and was deciding if I should go to the emergency room. Turns out I broke the top of my foot today. Story 85. Entropion and eyelid surgery to correct it because of my cat. If they have entropion, I do not know. They are either a superhero or being bullied really badly. I do not see any in between. Story 86. The local school district's reading plan is probably helping students perform well academically. However, some children may still be targets for bullies. I am sorry if your child is experiencing this. Story 87. How tall is Martin Freeman? He is aware of his height difference compared to most others, of course, but he has learned to make the best of it by being an excellent burglar. Story 88. Cooked a meal and am not hungry. On the upside, they are probably great in culinary school, but on the downside, they probably have an eating disorder. Story 89. Thermal vent crab, also known as Yeti crab, gets pinched a lot by classmates. It is becoming quite the problem. Story 90. Iron Maiden Stavanger is somewhat of a loner, excellent in creative arts, and kind to the unique kids in class. Story 91. Longest John's folk band. It looks like I will be having a son who can sing parts from birth. As long as he goes by John, he will be fine in school. Story 92. I am not angry anymore, but I have to go to detention and have been recommended for anger management. They are very stressed, ironically. Story 93. Local landfill's garage band is really starting to make progress, and I think they have a great built-in name. Story 94. Old Navy is doing fine because there are real children named Navy in this world. I have regrets, but at least no one bullies Old Navy. I need clothes for work. Story 95. How to dispose of a dead possum is a topic for someone who does not get off the couch, plays video games all night, and sleeps all day. Story 96. Guam weather today is playing hooky and just enjoying the mall with her friends while buying summer wear. Story 97. 62 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius, CC for short, is enjoying the warm weather. Her greatest weakness is not being able to understand units of measurement, time, temperature, and capacity frequently used in the United States. Story 98. Seth Sun Villano is doing fine. He studies hard, has really good grades, is kind to everyone, and makes sure he has enough time to relax and have fun too. I have his oath stone. Story 99. How do Australians write the date is just struggling with every little thing. Thinks he is Australian. Story 100. Little Mia Sarah remains a constant disappointment to all the male teachers and some of the female teachers. Story 101. Joke's on you. I'm not having kids, so you won't see inappropriate content in your child's kindergarten. Story 102. Lil Stolas Goetia is going to be doing just fine as long as he is not paired up with that mean girl who pushes around the other kids. Give him books and he is happy. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.